The air in Washington, D.C., felt charged that night, an electric hum that rippled through the crowd spilling into the streets around Northwest Stadium. This was not just any concert. It was the final stop of the Grand National Tour, the last chapter of a coast-to-coast journey that had transformed arenas into festivals of sound, light, and raw emotion. Tens of thousands of fans had lined up hours before the gates opened. Many had traveled from cities still buzzing with the memory of Kendrick Lamar's performances in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Miami. Others had come just for this finale, determined to witness the moment when Kendrick and SZA would bring down the curtain on a tour that had become one of the most talked-about phenomena in modern music. Welcome to Celebrity Rap Life, where the red carpets never roll up and the spotlight never fades. The rewards are legendary. Because in celebrity rap life, every downfall can become a comeback, and every headline tells a deeper story. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next. Inside the stadium, the energy was palpable. Fans wore matching GNX and SOS Deluxe, Lana merchandise. Homemade signs proclaimed favorite lyrics. Entire sections hummed Kendrick's opening chords before the band even struck a note. Some groups sat in nervous anticipation, tapping their feet, whispering predictions about surprise guests and encore tracks. Others chanted SZA's name, certain she would deliver the kind of performance that had fellow artists praising her for months. Security crews moved through the sea of bodies with practiced calm, reminding everyone of the show's delayed start courtesy of an earlier thunderstorm, but also promising the music would make up for every minute of rain-soaked waiting. When the lights finally dimmed, the roar was deafening. Smoke cannons fired as Kendrick emerged on a raised platform driving a replica of his Buick Grand National, the engine growling through custom speakers. The bass dropped, and he opened with whacked-out murals, his flow cutting through the stadium like lightning. Moments later, the stage morphed, and SZA appeared, stepping into a spotlight that caught every reflective detail of her flowing costume. She launched into SOS, her voice floating above the crowd and sending a wave of euphoria through everyone who had ever turned on her Kill Bill or Good Days. For nearly 2 hours, the two artists traded verses and shared duets, their chemistry undeniable. Kendrick's rapid-fire bars met SZA's soulful runs, creating a rhythm that felt both spontaneous and deeply rehearsed. But it was the final act, when the concert transcended spectacle and tore straight into the heart, that no one saw coming. As the last chords of All the Stars faded, SZA stood alone at center stage. The massive screens that had displayed sweeping visuals of Compton streets and star-studded clouds now showed a simple feed of her face, magnified so every tear could be seen, every breath noted. The roaring cheers softened into a hush as she took a hesitant step forward, her usual confident smile replaced by something more vulnerable. She lifted the mic, and for a moment it seemed her voice might fail. Instead, she spoke slowly, deliberately, a tremor in her tone that made the stadium quiet. "This tour, this whole experience has changed me," she said. Her words carried across the open air. "When I agreed to do this with Kendrick, I was so proud. I knew we'd make something special. But I didn't know it would heal parts of me I thought were broken." The crowd leaned in, as if trying to catch every syllable. In the front rows, some fans reached for tissues. Up in the nosebleeds, others stood, phones raised, capturing the scene. On stage, the band paused. The lights softened. Kendrick emerged from the shadows without a word, closing the distance between them. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Her eyes met his, and she nodded, swallowing hard as more tears rolled down her cheeks. "It's because of you," she continued, voice cracking but determined. "You trusted me. You lifted me. You showed me that I belong up here, that I'm worthy of this stage, of this spotlight. I've carried so much doubt, even after people told me I was great. But you believed like no one else ever had." A collective hush fell. You could hear the static hum of cameras capturing the moment, the distant whistles of crew members giving silent approval. And then softly, the first strains of Good Days began, an unplanned underscore that seemed to bloom organically from the speakers. SZA closed her eyes, letting the music cradle her confession. Kendrick closed the gap and wrapped her in an embrace, one arm over her shoulder, the other steadying her hip. She leaned in, pressing her face into the crook of his neck. The hug lasted longer than a photo-op, more intimate than a planned moment, as if it carried all the gratitude and unspoken respect they had built over months on the road. When they finally pulled apart, SZA wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. Kendrick gave a small nod and stepped back to let her finish. "Thank you for seeing me," she whispered into the mic. "Thank you for believing I had something to say too. This was your tour as much as mine. You taught me that being real is enough. Because of you, I'm whole." The stadium erupted into applause, a wave of noise so intense it threatened to tear the night sky apart. Fans jumped, waving their arms, their phones lighting the stands like tiny stars. Some chanted, SZA, in unison. Others bellowed, K. But all of them, in that moment, felt connected, not just to two artists at the peak of their powers, but to each other, bound by the shared experience of witnessing something genuine and unrepeatable. After the hug, Kendrick took the mic himself for the first time all night since the opening track. His usual stoic presence gave way to something warmer, more deliberate. "This tour has been the realest thing I've ever done," he said, scanning the crowd. "We've seen storms delay us, we've seen sold-out nights, but tonight was the heart of it all. SZA, thank you for every note, every lyric, every moment you trusted yourself on that stage. You're a force, and I'm proud to share this story with you." He dropped the mic, and she laughed through her tears, a soft, triumphant sound that echoed across the stadium. Then together, they launched into All the Stars, once more, turning what had begun as a simple award acceptance into a living testament of collaboration, resilience, and artistic kinship. Backstage after the show, the hugs and tears continued behind closed doors. Crew members whispered congratulations. Makeup artists dabbed eyes. In the VIP lounge, industry veterans marveled at the raw display, calling it a masterclass in artistry and humanity. Fans posted clips online within seconds, millions of views rolling in by midnight. Social media erupted with praise. "I've never seen two artists trust each other like that," one tweet read. "That was a reminder why we love music," wrote another. Even news outlets, quick to cover headlines, paused to run the clip, framing it as a career-defining moment, not just an award speech. In the days that followed, interviews with both Kendrick and SZA touched on the hug that became symbolic of the tour's true purpose. SZA spoke of it as a turning point, one that reminded her creative expression was inseparable from emotional honesty. Kendrick, in his rare press moments, praised SZA's vulnerability, calling her a poet of the soul, and crediting her for pushing him to explore deeper themes in his own writing. Critics hailed the moment as a highlight in an otherwise competitive industry. Commentators noted how unusual it was for two headliners to center each other, rather than play to ego or territory. It became a case study in leadership through collaboration, an example for other artists on the road. Young musicians took note, sharing SZA's words about self-belief on Instagram stories. Touring acts discussed it in podcasts, wondering how to cultivate that level of trust among their own crews. Yet for all the acclaim, the simplest truth remained. That hug at Northwest Stadium captured something timeless. It spoke of mentorship without hierarchy, friendship without reservation, and artistry without pretense. It reminded everyone, fans and fellow artists alike, that music is more than entertainment. It's a conduit for connection, healing, and affirmation. A few weeks later, as the tour's final merchandise shipments arrived at SZA's studio and Kendrick began plotting his next album rollout, both artists reflected on what had happened in DC. "That moment will stay with me forever," SZA said in a quiet phone interview. "It was more than just closing the tour. It felt like opening something inside myself." Kendrick, when asked on social media about the hug, simply replied, "Love wins." And for the millions who watched, both in person and through screens, that final night wasn't just the end of a stadium tour. It was the start of countless personal journeys inspired by two artists brave enough to lay their hearts bare. It proved that even in a world of spotlights and applause, the most powerful moments come when you step out of the glare, look at someone else, and say simply, "I believe in you." That, more than any encore or platinum plaque, is the legacy of that embrace. This story is far from over, and the truth is still unfolding. I want to hear what you think. Drop your take in the comments. And if you don't want to miss the next twist, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next.